The moon hung low over the parking lot, a luminous orb casting silver shadows that danced across the asphalt. In the far corner of that desolate expanse, Xavier Johnson took his post as a security guard, a role he wore like a well-loved coat, albeit one frayed and patched in places. With broad shoulders and a sturdy build, he had a presence that made him seem more formidable than one would expect from someone whose nights were spent watching over empty cars and storage units. But there was an undeniable warmth in his hazel eyes, a chronic vulnerability reflected in their depths that came from years of scraping by, paycheck to paycheck. At 35, the weight of his responsibilities had settled heavily on his chest. With a son to raise and bills always threatening to drown him in anxiety, Xavier had come to feel like a ghost in his own life, moving through the motions with a hollowed-out sense of purpose. The night shift paid less than a living wage, but it also provided him with the flexibility that allowed him to pick up his son Leo from school each day. They shared small moments that mattered: a quiet dinner, a board game, or stories as Leo drifted off to sleep, but every second he spent pouring his love into his boy felt like it was stealing from his own dreams. Despite his struggles, Xavier held on to a belief that guided him through the darkest nights, that one act of kindness could create ripples of change, not just for others but for himself as well. Little did he know how true that would become. On one particularly brisk evening, as the chill seeped through his threadbare jacket, the rhythmic tick of the clock echoed against the monotonous sounds of the night. Xavier pushed the thought of the growing stack of bills at home to the back of his mind. His primary focus was scanning the lot, ensuring everything was as it should be. But then his gaze landed on a figure in the far corner, a teen. They were probably no older than 16, sitting on a low concrete ledge, shoulders hunched in defeat. Xavier's heart twisted. The boy's face bore a gauntness that spoke volumes, and for a brief moment, a flash of his own childhood flickered. Long hours spent alone, with an empty pantry, the pangs of hunger gnawing at him. In a world where everyone seemed caught up in their own narratives of survival, he recognized something in that boy's eyes: desperation. It was the same look he recalled wearing during the leaner days of his youth. With a deep breath, Xavier made up his mind. He turned on his heel and trudged toward his small yet trusty vehicle parked at the edge of the lot. Even though his stomach grumbled softly in protest, the realization of what was at stake gripped him tightly. He had just enough money left to buy that boy a snack or two. If he didn't connect with that boy now, who knows how far the weight of hunger might pull him down. He rummaged through his glove compartment until he found a crumpled $5 bill, the remnants of his meager lunch budget. With a hopeful heart, he trudged back to the teen, feeling the bundled-up cold air snap at his cheeks. "Hey," he said softly, crouching down to meet the boy's gaze. "You look like you could use something to eat." The teen looked up, emerald eyes wide and filled with vulnerability. I'm fine," he stuttered, but the tremor in his voice told a different story. "No, you're not," Xavier replied gently, his voice warm against the crisp air. "Let me help you out. I'll be right back." He quickly headed to the nearest corner store, urging the bell above the door to jingle reassuringly as he pushed it open, breathing in the scents of cheap sandwiches and sugary pastries. He filled a small basket with chips, a donut, and a carbonated drink, all of it for that boy, knowing full well that each item cost more than he should have spent just for a snack. But at that moment, the teen deserved every morsel more than he did. Handing over the $5 bill, he felt a bittersweet pang of longing rush through him, wondering when he would be able to indulge in such simple pleasures. The cashier, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, recognized his struggle and smiled knowingly. "You're doing a good thing, dear." Returning to the boy outside, Xavier handed over the basket with both pride and nervousness. The teen's expression shifted from skepticism to genuine surprise. Slowly he reached out, and a spark of gratitude ignited in his eyes. "You really didn't have to do this," he murmured, but his voice was softer. "I've been there," Xavier replied, shrugging off the weight of his own past. "And sometimes we all just need someone to look out for us." As the boy opened the snack bag, a hint of joy flickered across his face, momentarily lifting the weight of his worries. Xavier stood back, watching him devour the food with fervor, his spirit lightening in tandem. In that moment, as laughter bubbled between them over a shared experience, Xavier understood something fundamental: that sometimes the smallest acts could forge the deepest connections. Little did he know how this connection and this act of kindness would soon alter the course of both their lives in ways he could hardly imagine. Days later, a phone call would pull him from the depths of his trials and into an important meeting, one that would challenge him to soar beyond the confines of the life he had known. It would be during that meeting, fueled by a sense of purpose reignited by the warmth of the teens' appreciation, that Xavier would finally learn the power of truly embracing a moment of change. Little did he know that evening would be just the beginning of something extraordinary. The brisk autumn air carried a lingering warmth from the interactions of the night before, and in the small community of Winterston, Xavier Johnson felt the tremors of change ripple through his life. That day, buoyed by the memory of the grateful boy enjoying the snacks, Xavier walked through the security office with a newfound pep in his step. He approached his usual post with a lighter heart, pondering the unexpected joy his small act of kindness had sparked. As he made his rounds through the Winterston Mall, he couldn't shake the feeling that his universe had shifted ever so slightly. The chuckles of children, laughter spilling from coffee shops, and the vibrant energy of vibrant shoppers buzzing around him, all felt just a little brighter. Perhaps this is what he had been missing: connection. And then, there it was, a moment that would illuminate the path ahead. Amidst the casual hustle of mommies with strollers and throngs of teens bouncing between their favorite stores, Xavier spotted the familiar silhouette of the boy Nathan, as he would soon learn, skipping into the mall with a spring in his step. His face glowed, flushed with excitement as he waved enthusiastically. It struck Xavier how genuine that smile seemed. "Mr. Johnson," Nathan called out, eyes shining bright. He raced toward Xavier, stopping just short to catch his breath. "Thank you for the snacks. They were awesome. I was so hungry." Xavier chuckled, a sound he had to remind himself of, as welcoming as a warm blanket wrapped around him. "I'm glad you liked them, Nathan. You had me worried there for a minute." "Worried?" Nathan echoed, disbelief punctuating his astonishment. "No way, man. I felt like a king." A quiet confidence sparkled in his voice. "You know what? I've been thinking a lot about what you told me. About helping others and stuff. So I was thinking, can I ask you a question?" "Sure," said Xavier, now leaning in with curiosity. "Do you think I could do a little project for my school? I want to start a fundraiser to help other kids in our neighborhood. We could serve snacks too." Nathan's eyes lit up with the potential of their collective efforts, and Xavier couldn't help but feel a glow of pride for this young boy who embodied hope. "That sounds like a fantastic idea," Xavier encouraged. "I'll be happy to lend a hand. What do you have in mind?" In the weeks that followed, the unlikely duo forged a friendship rooted in kindness and determination. They spent evenings brainstorming ideas, with Nathan often dragging Xavier into the tiny diner where they would scribble plans over hot plates of greasy fries. At times, Xavier would share his own experiences of hardship, revealing how small gestures from others had allowed him to transcend his struggles. Nathan, whose presence was increasingly a beacon of light in Xavier's life, listened intently, often suggesting ways that they could collaborate to uplift others. The project began to take shape, with the support of the community rallying around Nathan's infectious energy. News of the fundraiser spread through social media, and soon local businesses donated snacks, beverages, and volunteers dedicated to setting up the event. Nathan's initial spark grew into a wildfire of goodwill shared across various local groups. Yet beyond the palpable excitement, the groundwork supported Xavier's own personal growth. Each interaction, as they collected donations or finalized logistics, brought back vivid memories of his own childhood, a time when he struggled, yet smiled in indomitable spirit. Nathan reminded Xavier of what it was like to feel empowered by kindness, revealing parts of himself he thought he'd locked away. On the day of the fundraiser, the mall was humming with eager anticipation. The air was filled with the tantalizing aroma of cotton candy and the sound of children laughing at the makeshift snack stall, a direct product of their labor. Nathan stood in front of a bright banner they had made together in bold letters, "Snacks for Smiles." His wide smile as he greeted customers reminded Xavier of why he'd invested so much in this venture. As the day unfolded, Xavier moved through the crowds, his heart buoyed by a profound sense of belonging. Each donation and every kind word seemed to fuel Nathan's enthusiasm, and before 2 hours had passed, they had already raised enough money to support multiple children in need of lunch programs at school. But the real miracle awaited during the latter part of the event. Out of the corner of his eye, Xavier noticed a familiar figure again, the shopkeeper from the diner where he often ate when times were tough. Mr. DeLuca, a sturdy man with wisps of white hair and twinkling eyes, approached with an air of excitement. "Xavier, I caught the news about your fundraiser. What a fantastic initiative!" Mr. DeLuca boomed, shaking Nathan's hand with a hearty laugh that seemed to resonate with the crowd. "You know, I've been meaning to expand my cafe's menu, but with limited resources. What if we partnered up? You and Nathan could help develop a series of snacks, and I'd sell them right here in the mall. All proceeds would go to supporting this cause." Xavier's mouth fell open, processing the weight of Mr. DeLuca's offer. The implication of financial stability began to swirl imaginatively in his mind. Are you serious? That could really make a difference. I could. Of course I'm serious, Mr. DeLuca interjected jovially. Let's meet and go through the details. Who knows what we can achieve together? A flicker of hope ignited in Xavier's chest, and glancing at Nathan, who mirrored his astonished expression, he could not help but see the transformation unfolding. As Nathan's eyes widened with excitement, Xavier knew that this was more than just a simple collaboration. It was the potential for growth, both financial and personal, that could reinvigorate their lives. As the sun embarked upon its descent, covering the sky in a radiant palette of colors, Xavier felt the heaviness of his burdens begin to lift. For the first time in a long time, he envisioned a hopeful future, a possibility he hadn't dared to dream for himself in years. The fundraiser ended on an exhilarating note, and soon Nathan and Xavier stood together off to the side, watching the last families file out. "Did you see that?" Nathan exclaimed, still bursting with exuberance. Xavier laughed, nodding. "You did something incredible today, Nathan. You brought the community together. I couldn't have done it without you. Your kindness helped remind me that I'm not just a kid, but someone who can do something amazing," Nathan responded, and for a moment the roles reversed, revealing Xavier's own potential in Nathan's words. "Let's keep this going," Xavier announced, a renewed determination flowing through him. "Our work doesn't stop here. We can infuse hope and kindness into every corner of this city. Just imagine the changes we could bring." Nathan beamed, the kind of grin that illuminated his entire being, the kind that reminded Xavier just how far kindness could travel. And together they began to map the next seeds of change that would sprout forth in the world around them, one act of generosity at a time. As they stood side by side, taking in the beauty and the promise of the world surrounding them, Xavier felt buoyed by an unwavering realization life was not just about surviving, it was about lifting others as they climbed, that through their connected journeys, change significant and transformative could be made. And for the first time in many years, Xavier felt like he was more than just a ghost in the shadows. He was becoming a beacon of light, guiding his way home. As the vibrant colors of the sunset began to fade, casting a gentle glow over the Winterston Mall, Xavier and Nathan stood side by side, a compendium of ideas swirling between them as they brainstormed their next steps. The excitement of the recent fundraiser still electrified the air, each poised to embrace the promise of tomorrow. In the weeks that followed, the partnership with Mr. DeLuca flourished. The cafe hired Nathan and Xavier as culinary consultants, encouraging their creative freedom to develop a unique menu of snacks designed to appeal to the community's desires. The duo organized tasting events every weekend, inviting families to sample their creations, and with each event, they noticed an incredible wave of support from the people in Winterston, the very community Xavier had once felt distant from. Xavier had never imagined that his simple act of kindness towards Nathan would bloom into a project that would unify the community and wield a tangible economic impact. He felt a profound shift in his life, fueled by gratitude, kindness, and an infectious spirit of collaboration. After the cafe launched the new menu, the profits generated were astounding. With each new flavor developed, from savory popcorn to gourmet taco bites, the cafe thrived, and alongside it, so did Xavier's confidence. The stunned expressions of people enjoying the snacks were humbling. Even more surprising was the impact on his finances. He could finally envision a future no longer defined by worry. One afternoon, after a particularly fruitful event, Xavier watched Nathan help the cafe staff serve buttery popcorn to giggling children. Every burst of laughter seemed to lift the load he had carried for so long. He felt the sun's warmth on his face and had a delicious meal in his belly, a combination that brought reminiscing waves of nostalgia, reminding him of his own boyhood. Nathan Xavier began, catching the boy's attention, who hustled over, wiping his hands on a towel. "Can you believe how far we've come?" Nathan beamed, an aura of optimism radiating from him. "I still think about that day you gave me snacks and help." It ignited everything. His voice rang with sincerity. "If it wasn't for your kindness, I don't think we'd even be here." Xavier furrowed his brow, reflecting, "Maybe that was the best investment I ever made, investing in you." Nathan nodded. A knowing silence passed between them, one steeped not just in shared experiences, but in the common goal of inspiring others. As they set up the cafe for their next event, news spread about their culinary offerings. Soon enough, they were featured in the local paper for their impactful community efforts. With Nathan still in high school, gaining media attention pulled in even more customers, and volunteers flocked to help. Reflecting on this development, Xavier felt the warmth of hope blossom within him, the kind that came from unexpectedly nurturing roots. They were living proof that kindness not only transformed individuals but also served as a catalyst for economic growth and collaboration. Fast forward a few months, and Winterston was buzzing with excitement in anticipation of the first annual Winterston Harvest Festival. The community rallied together, spearheaded by Nathan and Xavier's influence, offering local goods, crafts, and, of course, Nathan and Xavier's cafe delights. On the morning of the festival, a mosaic of families, friends, and neighbors filled the streets, their excitement palpable. Colorful tents lined the pathway, decorated with hand-painted signs, and music floated from a nearby stage. Xavier found himself engulfed in a spirited rhythm, absorbed in the collective joy of the day, watching as smiles spread from face to face. As the afternoon unfolded, Xavier took a moment to stand back and soak it all in. He spotted Mr. DeLuca chatting with Nathan near their snack stall. Their laughter filled the air, ringing sweetly against the backdrop of joyous chatter, and Xavier felt a sense of pride swell in his chest. This was the very community he once felt he was observing from the sidelines. They were thriving, and it was because of the love and dedication everyone poured into their shared moments. Suddenly, his phone buzzed, breaking him from his daydream. The message came from his wife, Sarah, who was still navigating the challenges of being a full-time working parent. Taking a moment to read it, a bittersweet feeling arose. Xavier's heart ached as the words unfolded. She expressed gratitude for everything he'd accomplished since they had separated. Although their marriage had crumbled under the pressure of financial hardships, Xavier had never given up working towards a reconciliation. "Maybe we can start over again," she had written. "When I see what you've created, it gives me hope." Hope. The word echoed in his mind like the sounds of laughter in the air. He needed to reach out further, mend deeper connections. He wandered over to Nathan and Mr. DeLuca, joy lighting their conversation. "Hey, can we take a moment?" he said, snapping them from their chatter. "Of course," Nathan replied, grinning. "What's up?" Xavier swallowed hard, gathered his thoughts, and said, "I got a message from Sarah. She wants to talk, and for a chance to begin again." Nathan's eyes brightened. "That's amazing, Mr. Johnson. Do you think you'll have a shot?" "I think so," Xavier replied, his voice steady with newfound determination. "And if I can bring together her love and support, combined with everything we've built here, I can work on understanding my past together." The tenderness of the moment swelled through Nathan's gaze. "You deserve that, man. You've worked so hard, and you've shown us all what it means to be hopeful." They closed the stall as the crowds began to thicken. With the backdrop of laughter and festive music still echoing through the festival, Xavier felt a magnetism towards his goal, a yearning to strengthen not just the community connection, but the bonds within his family as well. As the evening sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting golden rays over the festival, Xavier walked toward the intersection of their lives, the unfolding of his future. By the end of the festival, filled with heartwarming interactions and festivity, he knew he had to take the leap, reach out to Sarah, and see if the blossoms of their past could bloom once more. Days later, he located the courage required to arrange a meeting. With trembling hands, he texted her, asking to meet for coffee. When they settled across from one another at Mr. DeLuca's cafe, Xavier realized they had both changed. Their desire for connection persisted. "Your hard work and kindness have brought so much joy to my life," Sarah started, her voice shaking slightly with emotion. "I've seen what you've accomplished, and I'm really proud of you." "Thank you," he replied, taking a deep breath. The weight felt lighter, as if kindness had again lifted burdens. "It's always been about family, you know. This entire journey has helped me realize the importance of connection, not just with others, but with you." When the conversation flowed, filled with laughter and tender glances, Xavier felt a warmth rising within him. The love never disappeared, it had simply been overshadowed by worries and fears. Looking into her eyes, Xavier vowed to not only find the strength to dream again, but to create the future they could still share together. As their conversation continued, every word exchanged became a stepping stone toward healing. The embrace of kindness had wrapped around them once more, burning brightly against the shades of their past struggles. With each promise made to support one another, they infused their future with gratitude, anchoring it in the strong roots they had nurtured during their time of separation. Months turned into a year filled with workshops, community events, and fruitful collaborations at the cafe, as well as the season of new beginnings with Sarah, whose unwavering belief in Xavier reignited the dormant flame in his heart. They began to dream again, transforming the life they had built into one that would thrive beyond adversity. Xavier watched Nathan graduate high school with honors, accepting scholarships to culinary institutes. At the ceremony, as he sported that proud smile on his face, it became clear that Nathan, too, had ventured far beyond the boy who once sat on that concrete ledge lost in despair. With the festival now an annual tradition, its energy vibrated with the echoes of laughter and connection, people gathering not just for food but for the bonds they had cultivated in the heart of Winterston. What started as a small act of kindness had transformed into a movement, igniting a flame of hope that spread across the community, encouraging others to take similar strides forward. Reflecting on how far they had come, Xavier continued to be inspired, filled with gratitude for how transformative kindness could unite people thriving for a better tomorrow. He kept one mantra close: compassion must always be given the chance to flourish. As he stood side by side with Nathan and Sarah at the stand on a brisk autumn evening, he knew they weren't just selling tasty snacks anymore, they were fostering dreams, rekindling love, and nurturing the ties that bound them all together. With the stars twinkling above and the music of laughter floating through the air, Xavier Johnson finally understood it was not just the act of kindness that changed everything, but the steadfast belief in hope, growing stronger with the bonds formed through the heart. The community, once on the brink of despair, had blossomed into a beautiful tapestry of connection, each thread woven with love and support for one another, a legacy built on the simple truth that the smallest actions can create the most profound changes.